enforce these contempt orders is what Congress is stripping away from them. So Congress is taking away the judiciary branch's ability. They're taking away their teeth because Congress controls the money. They can take away the money. So now basically anything but the Supreme Court, the executive branch, after this bill passes, if and when it passes in the Senate, this will give the executive an even clearer path to ignore all injunctions and stuff like that. So you don't have anything to fear from the lower courts. The only thing you could fear is from the higher court. And by the way, all this is kind of pointless because they are in direct defiance of the highest court in the land right now. This provision in the House budget bill would, quote, further empower Trump's lawbreaking. Courts use contempt findings to enforce their orders. House Republicans do not want to give them that option. By Madiba K. Denny, May 23rd, 2025. At 6:56 a.m. on Thursday, a razor-thin majority of the U.S. House of Representatives voted to pass a sweeping budget bill that would impose draconian cuts to critical public services, allocate billions of dollars to executing President Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda, and give $1.5 trillion in tax breaks to the wealthiest people in the country. The bill now moves to the Senate, where it will only need a simple majority to pass. So it will pass because they have the majority. The most prominent victims of the House Republicans' budget are Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. The programs would lose a combined $965 billion in federal funds over the next decade and cause a staggering number of Americans, including over 10 million children, to lose their health insurance, go hungry, or both. But the bill is full of other smaller, loathsome treats for Republicans, including a provision that aims to shield the Trump administration from accountability for its law-breaking by stripping courts of funds to enforce their orders. And without enforcement, court orders are little more than suggestions for Trump to ignore. In March, Trump issued an executive order in which he claimed that, quote, activist organizations, end quote, were, quote, undermining the democratic process, end quote, by obtaining court injunctions that blocked the administration's policies and called for stronger enforcement of Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 65C. Under Rule 65C, plaintiffs seeking a preliminary injunction or temporary restraining order have to, quote, give security, end quote, which is sort of like posting bond. For a case to move forward, plaintiffs would have to put up enough money to cover costs and damages in case the court temporarily prevents the government from implementing some aspect of its agenda, but ultimately decides the government's action was legal. In other words, the administration wants parties seeking injunctions against it to first pay up, a strategic ploy to make it too expensive for organizations to sue the administration when it breaks the law. Barriers to justice. That's what this is. Barriers to justice. The problem with Trump's gambit is that Rule 65C lets judges set security at, quote, an amount that the court considers proper, end quote. And when it comes to lawsuits against the government, judges often consider the proper amount to be $0. Waiving security in public interest litigation means poor people can still sue when the government violates their rights. So, House Republicans have created another way for Trump to avoid consequences, a provision in the budget bill that prohibits courts from using any congressionally appropriated funds to, quote, enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given when the injunction or order was issued, end quote. This means that if a plaintiff didn't post the bond but still sued the government and won an order blocking it from committing some unlawful action, that order basically doesn't count. The government can disobey the order and even be held in contempt, but that contempt finding would be toothless. There would be no way to actually make the government follow the law. Thousands of existing orders would become useless on paper, as would any future orders, unless plaintiffs pony up. So remember, the big thing with this is, it may not be, the judges can go back to whatever. This goes back retroactively. So all the positive, the cases that you've seen, this is the good news. All those cases, the plaintiffs have to pony up the money now in order for these cases to matter at all. So in order for these thousands of existing orders to not become useless words on paper, they have to pay. So it's not just into the future. This goes back retroactively. So all the ones that have been stopped are now all in question. So if you thought the courts were saving us, now every single one of those in question is because another co-equal branch of government ceded even more power to Donald Trump. Since Trump took office in January, dozens of federal judges have issued injunctions or temporary restraining orders barring the administration's illegal acts. As the administration keeps openly violating these orders, judges are growing closer to holding the administration in contempt. House Republicans know Trump will not follow the law unless he is made to follow the law. They know contempt is how judges make people do so, and they are trying to ensure judges can't make Trump do anything. The government would be free to violate the law, and the American people will pay for it. Boom. Just so you know what's in that bill, there's a bunch of other stuff. They talked about the cuts in there, and the cuts are awful, but that is what we are seeing. So if you are waiting for those injunctions or those sweeping injunctions to stop the deportations, to stop all this illegal stuff, now there are more barriers to justice. Another co-equal branch of government, the legislative power or the legislative body was used to cede more power to Trump.